So, how are we feeling, my little filmer dudes? To be honest, to be frank, to be Ivan, the episode, I was left a little worried by the end of the episode, and I wasn't really sure as to what exactly was like, it was giving me this concern. And I mean, I watched the episode quite a few times at this point, and I'm just, and I think it's got really, really, really good elements. But I think what concerns me is the direction in which this show is going. I'm really not the only one, and I think this is something that concerns a lot of us because it's very similar to what happened in the movie. But of course, with the preview for episode 7, which I don't even like previews. I don't like to watch previews. I don't even like to think about previews, but that's why we're all concerned. I don't think they're actually gonna go there. It just seems like the classic Disney Plus formula where somehow, despite how good the first few may be, that 6th episode seems to be the episode that takes a tumble a little bit. And it's only the 7th episode that determines whether the finale is gonna be good or not. So I am a little worried because there's so much going on in this season alone. Like, are we ever going to talk about Annabeth's anger with Sally and Percy, or rather their relationship? I don't think we're gonna talk about this for the rest of the season. Not with 2 episodes left. And there's just so much stuff that has not been covered, whether that's from the book or things that have been set up by the show. And though this was very good for all of the payoffs beforehand, by the end of the episode, it was weird because I'm not gonna lie, did anyone else feel like this show ended 3 times? This episode ended 3 times? There was 3 endings. And I know a lot of you guys are gonna say, well, there's commercial breaks. I get that. These specific ones at the end, where Grover says, it's the fleece, the real one, it almost feels like an ending of the whole episode, because that's what we were leading up to. And then when Luke takes Annabeth and they're all in despair, that also felt like an ending. And then the actual ending was the ending. But at that point, I was like, oh, we're actually ending, because every single time I was like, are we actually ending here? It's so early, because this episode is the shortest episode that we've had to date, 33 minutes, which doesn't seem like it would be that short, but in the context of what we've gotten, of what we've been spoiled with, i.e. longer episodes, this one really does stand out as like one of the short ones. And if you go back to the other short episode, I'm not sure which one, you can feel how short that one is too. Longer episodes work, and longer episodes, we mean 41 plus minutes. I put the 1 in there because, you know, why not? Either way, still, with the good elements that this episode has, I kind of think that episode 6 might be the weakest episode of the whole bunch. And that's saying a lot, because still, the whole show is pretty good, and this episode is all right. There's just some parts in the dialogue and the writing that I found a little bit wonky. And once again, the direction in which the show is going and not having enough room, I feel, to have all the discussions that we need to properly have. So I'm a little worried, but I guess we'll have to wait and see what the rest look like. But let's get into the good parts. I told you that Tyson and Percy had similar powers, or rather shared similar powers. They share a power, one power. They can both breathe underwater. And I did have to look this up with my roommate because we had the question, wait, do all Cyclops breathe underwater? And the answer is depends, I guess, but I guess in this, typically, yeah, actually. So that's really cool that Tyson can breathe underwater, but my roommate pointed out that Tyson didn't hesitate at all to breathe underwater. He kind of just woke up. For me, I don't know if it was more of a, this is where I'm at, I can't really move. But for him, it translated more as if he knew, because Tyson is more accepting of his Greek father heritage than Percy ever was. Like, Percy had to have a nymph tell him, yo, dude, it's fine, just breathe. And Tyson just did it. And this boy, he's a heavy boy. Not only did he sink right to the bottom, but there was a loud thud, which might be in part with the underwater forges that there are in Atlantis. I think maybe Cyclops are heavy so that they can stay underneath, I suppose. But that's all we see of Tyson until Tyson appears later on, until it's Tyson to the rescue. But boy, is Tyson the king of terrible timing. He shows up to defend Annabeth right after she gets whopped in the face with Cyclops fist. And that was kind of terrifying, because we've seen campers get attacked by vicious birds and they come out pretty much unscathed. But Annabeth was completely bloody, probably had broken bones. It's not funny, I'm just uncomfortable. But then Tyson shows up after Luke takes Annabeth. And granted, he had to make Sophie's choice between saving Percy and saving Annabeth. And he was actually worried. He was concerned about Percy's reactions over choosing Percy over Annabeth, because he knows how much Annabeth means to Percy, which then tells you how much Tyson devalues himself, because he thought perhaps maybe Annabeth was the right choice, but he's not going to leave Percy behind, because Percy, he's his brother. And the only thing that Percy was concerned about in that moment was Tyson, the fact that Tyson was alive. Their hug, Tyson's smile, I absolutely loved it. Like they're absolutely brothers, and it's so sweet. Tyson is now the third character in this series to reject his family heritage, his familyage, and be nothing like their family. Polyphemus calls Tyson little brother, but Tyson tells him, you ain't my bro. Literally everybody is out here telling their family, you get an FU and you get an FU. Everybody gets an FU. And Tyson decides to yet again stand up for others who are not like him, i.e. Percy, Clarice, and Grover, and go against his literal kind and defend them. He does. And I think Tyson actually unalives Polyphemus. Tyson tells Polly, I think he was almost begging him, do not make me hurt you. I don't want to hurt you. And Polyphemus laughs. That was his mistake. Underestimating your opponent. Never underestimate your enemy, no matter how smart you think you are. Because my brother Tyson pulls out the sickest moves, body slams Polyphemus, and both of them jump off that cliff. And Tyson, if you see Tyson's face, he is very regretful for having killed Polyphemus. And it wasn't until I was watching this for my notes where it dawned on me that Tyson would be able to kill him, because he's gone through years of fighting monsters to stay alive. The scars on his back in episode 2, when he said we can sleep here, I think sleep is good. That was him. That was his traumas coming out. And honestly, I actually started crying a little bit, because it dawned on me just how deep and how hurt of Tyson is. And I think that Tyson is a gorgeous character. Because as innocent as Tyson is, he is not. He was forced to grow up way too quickly, but he can definitely handle his own. And I think Tyson is MVP of the season. So even though Sally Jackson hasn't really been in this season that much, she's been prominent in every single episode. Her shadow looms. It looms. I've seen chatter for her online, specifically the comparisons between her and Luke's mom, whose name escapes me, but I think it's May. But we're just going to refer to her as Luke's mom. So in the book, Luke's mom had this prophetic ability, and when Luke was young, she essentially went to Camp Half-Blood. And when Luke was young, she essentially went to Camp Half-Blood to try to become the next Oracle of Delphi. However, it didn't work, and she started going crazy, and Luke blames Camp Half-Blood for his mom's state. And I think they might grab that for this show, because they're really dropping those hints that Sally Jackson might have the same prophetic ability. And it might be cool just to show even more connection between Luke and Percy, two sides of the same coin type of scenario. But the only thing I want is for Sally Jackson to not become the Oracle of Delphi. That is reserved for Rachel Dare. And I know people don't like Rachel Dare. I only like Rachel Dare when she is the Oracle of Delphi. When she finally becomes her own and stops leaning on other people for her identity, that is when she becomes incredible. And she has a really good arc, and I don't want Sally to become the next Oracle of Delphi. It would be cool if Sally were to mentor Rachel, and Sally thus encourages Rachel to do the right things and is that good influence on Rachel like she is on everybody so far. That would be okay, because then we have someone who kind of understands how this ability works in a way and is able to then explain it to Rachel instead of Rachel having to just figure it out or you know, so much complicated things. If that's what they're doing, albeit, go have your fun, writers. But again, do not touch Rachel's their title and give it to somebody else. Okay, so what is with that Thalia dream? You know the one where Percy wakes up in his cabin. There's campers everywhere. They're dead. But then enters Thalia and she shoots Percy with a lightning bolt. I saw a lot of people theorizing online that perhaps this might mean that during the final battle, Thalia is going to come out and shoot Percy because she's going to misunderstand the situation. And part of me wants to go a little bit further and say that perhaps Percy might get the upper hand on Luke and he might have that urge to strike him down. What if Annabeth yells, "Boon!" or something? I don't know. But Thalia is going to kind of see that, and maybe she understands a little bit more-ish or something, and she shoots Percy down because of it. I don't know. But, you know, it's gonna be kind of cool if this is all true. All right, so let's talk about Polyphemus's island. Polyphemus's speech is probably one of the best speeches I've heard in a long time. Okay, we're not that good, but it's pretty darn good. There's a lot of things in that speech, a lot of tells, I suppose. Polyphemus starts out by saying alone, not lonely, and he goes on to call his island the gift of being alone, so that he can protect his treasures and that everyone else are his enemies or their food. And this whole speech is a speech that he's telling Clarice and Grover, and he tells Clarice and Grover at the very end of his speech, I learned that if you don't trust nobody, you'll live. And at first I thought this was just him being grammatically a Cyclops, and then it dawned on me that nobody is Odysseus. He's referring to Odysseus, and he's not saying if we don't trust Odysseus. What he's saying is if you trust strangers, you will die. But if you don't trust strangers, you will live, because he trusted a stranger who called himself nobody and got himself ridiculed. Because in the original story, there were other Cyclops that Polyphemus ran to and said, I'm being attacked. And they're like, who attacked you? Who's taking your things? And he said, nobody. And they called him a fool. And it is a valid question to ask, where are the other Cyclops on this island? Because this is Polyphemus's island, so of course there would be only Polyphemus, because they were Cyclops from other islands. So what happened to those Cyclopses? Why is it only Polyphemus's island? I think it's because perhaps Polyphemus was so insistent on there being a nobody, on there being an actual person, that he might have actually drove the other Cyclops away, because they might have thought he's just crazy. So not only did trusting a stranger hurt him physically, take his belongings, but they also essentially ruined his reputation and stole his friends? Of course, this dude is freaking bitter. And of course he would prefer to be alone. He wants to be left alone, opposed to Circe, who wants to never be left alone. Circe is lonely. She loves people. She craves fellowship and the presence of others, so much so that she devises a plan to keep them there, opposed to Polyphemus, where he either devised a plan to drive them away or to eat them. And we all thought that Polyphemus was trying to lure satyrs there just to eat them, but turns out that's not the case. I think that Polyphemus was originally luring satyrs there. Now hear me out, I'm gonna get called crazy online. But I think that Pan gave Polyphemus that fleece so that satyrs would come to this island, not so that they could be eaten, but so that Polyphemus could not be lonely. Because Pan is the god of nature, and loneliness isn't exactly natural. It's fine to be alone. I remember I had a friend in college once. He told me he went to the library to sit alone, quietly, read in a corner, and he was having the time of his life being alone, reading quietly in the corner. And someone came up to him and was like, I see that you are lonely. I'm going to sit here with you. And he actually said, correction, I am alone, I am not lonely, there is a difference. Because he really did not want to be with anybody. And I get that. I also need my alone time. I need my alone time a lot. I work in retail, so like alone time is necessary for me. But at some point, I do get pretty lonely if I don't get human interaction. And then I spiral, and then I eat or don't eat. But by the time I do eat, I start feeling better. It's a whole thing. Oh, maybe that's what's so tough with Polyphemus. Maybe that's why he's just lowering. He's like, I need to eat, and then I'll feel fine. And so that's why he's lowering Satyr's hair. Duh. No, I think that Polyphemus, at some point, something happened with this plan of Pan, because Pan's plan was to have friends for Polyphemus, because again, loneliness is not natural, and friendship, being around people, having a good support system is natural, and being in harmony with one another is natural. So I think that Pan was hoping that satyrs would empathize with Polyphemus using their empathy thing. Not the empathy link, just their empathy powers, and be able to change Polyphemus, because when he's mimicking these voices of these other satyrs, he says, this person taught me rock and anime, this person taught me a slew of things that I didn't understand. And that to me says that Polyphemus sat down with these satyrs and they willingly gave him this information. They and Polyphemus hung out for a while. So what happened that made Polyphemus eat them? Is it just his uncontrollable urge to just eat satyrs? Is he that addicted to satyrs? Talk it out, Polyphemus. Don't eat your friends. Satyrs are friends, not food. Something awful must have happened, because I think eventually, Polyphemus switched up that plan and started luring satyrs so that he could collect their voices. Gonna tread very carefully here. But Polyphemus has a case of dissociative identity disorder, because Polyphemus learns everything about these satyrs, adopts them in mentally, I guess, and uses their voice to become them. And he says to Clarice and Grover, I'm gonna add all y'all's voices so that I can have new conversations with my friends, his friends. And I did find this episode, or at least that bit, to be fascinating, because in essence, that proves that Polyphemus is in fact lonely. Who hurt my baby Polyphemus? You deserve jail time, because Polyphemus, I almost guarantee you, got hurt time after time after time, and instead of holding people in like Circe did, he said, bye bitch. So I don't know, that's just how I feel, but I think Polyphemus is brilliant, because this dude tricks Annabeth and Percy into thinking that they've tricked him. This dude is just tricking everybody. He is incredibly intelligent. What a menacing force this guy is. And it's cute that they hid under sheep's wool, like a little cloak of a sheep. Because in the book, they literally hid under sheep and rode them like Odysseus and his men did. But I can see why they can't do that in this show. So this was cool, because those sheepskin, they were just conveniently there, 100% guaranteed they were there by Polyphemus. He left them there for them. And Annabeth walked right into his plan. And Polyphemus charging up that hill, grunting and yelling, that was horrifying. If I ever see that charging my way, I'm booking it. For like all of the endurance, all of the energy I can muster, I'm gone. I was yelling out my TV screen, Annabeth, put your hat on, and she did. Thank goodness. And that effect around her to show that she was invisible while not making her invisible was pretty cool. But Polyphemus, horrifying villain. That was scary. And we got to see a little bit more of Luke this time. And Luke, what a son of Hermes. He is lying his pants off left and right to everyone in this episode. He lies to Allison on a cruise ship. He lies to Percy in that cave. I'm pretty sure he said some type of lie to Annabeth. Best lies start with the truth, so there's gotta be something there. And of course he would be lying to everybody. He is the son of the trickster god. His go-to move is lie. It's always lie. Trick people, how? Lie. He's always freaking lying. That's what all he did in season 1 was lie. So literally anytime that Luke speaks, I do not believe him. Percy was right. He is working an angle. He's always working an angle. But Luke checking on Annabeth, I wouldn't believe him. I mean, two things can't be true at once. That could have been recon, but also he was definitely checking in on Annabeth. He already lost Thalia to a group of monsters because he didn't help out. So if Annabeth is about to face a really horrifying monster, he'd be damned if he weren't going to be there to help. And I'm really glad we got to see Backbiter in actual kind of full detail. It's really weird that this show is so afraid of giving fans those little nuggets of fan service. Like, I'm fine not having a ton of fan service, but let's like breathe a little bit, right? Like when we first saw Backbiter, it was dark and you couldn't really tell if it was dual colored or not. Now we can, but why not just focus in a little bit on it, right? Point is, I'm happy that Backbiter is exactly what I pictured in my brain. I'm okay. They could do whatever they want now, and I'll be fine. the things that I get upset over and that I'm okay with, and we're gonna talk about another thing later. And hopefully you'll laugh at me, maybe. Hopefully, don't laugh at this show. Just laugh at me. The show is good. It's fine. But I don't know why I was obsessed over Backbiter. I just thought Backbiter was such a freaking cool sword. So I'm glad that it's getting love in a way. Accuracy wise, at least. Luke 100% lied to Percy about only one person can go through the portals. Like, Luke, dude, you asked Percy to go with you last summer. You're really lucky that Percy is hyped up on an adrenaline and confusion that you couldn't actually remember that bit. But what if Percy had called your bluff? Would you have sacrificed Annabeth? I don't think so. But I also don't think that Luke would have ever lost this battle because I know that Luke knows Percy better than Percy knows himself. So I think he was very confident bluffing this way because he knew that Percy would give him the fleece no matter what. And honestly, this is where things kind of start to fall apart with me in this episode. Percy's fatal flaw is on full display, and it's not falling apart for me because of Percy's fatal flaw. I mean, this whole scene is great on paper, but I think in execution it just wasn't done as well as it could have been done. It was all good, just really weird pacing. Percy loses Annabeth for 2 minutes, maybe 3 maximum, and he's devastated, and then Luke opens that cave. Like, not that much time had passed by. So to me, I'm just like, Percy, you have to start controlling your emotions. And I get it. I spiral easily, but CC's Spawn Resort, this cave, you have got to learn to get it together. You are 13, I will give you that, but you're season 3 is about to happen, and if you read the Titan's Curse, you know what happens in that. So, Percy, for the love of everybody and the sake of the world, calm down. But I actually like that we kind of saw everyone's fatal flaw a little bit. Luke's fatal flaw, he would essentially gambling. Percy's fatal flaw, sacrificing the quest to save the person that he cares about the most. Him having to literally make the decision that he didn't want to make. Save Annabeth, save camp. And then we see Clarice's fatal flaw, which is she really would sacrifice anyone for the quest, which is the exact opposite of Percy. We all got to see the incorrectness of each fatal flaw. And it's very interesting because then that makes Clarice and Percy 2 sides of the same coin. Ooh! Tell you, man, this show is kind of subtly genius. But how will they get off the island, you ask? It's okay, because Tyson brought friends. And I will admit, I mention this every single time about the rainbow, the hippocampus, but I was upset with the depiction of the Sea of Monsters, and I'm finally ready to admit what that reasoning was, because I didn't want to say it because then everyone's gonna be like, you're just being petty then because there's only one freaking hippocampus then in this, and at first it was a boat, and I admitted I was a little miffed with that rainbow boat. I said you actually replaced hippocampus with a rubber raft. Not only is that impressive, but crazy dumb. But turns out that is the start of where Tyson gets the idea to name Rainbow, because then we see the iridescent rainbow-like bracelet, and then Rainbow's literal appearance and the rainbow aura that it gives off. But I was upset with there being only one hippocampus in the Sea of Monsters movie. That was the reason. It also looked like shit. But the main reason was that there was only one hippocampus and it took all 3 of them. It's supposed to be 3 hippocampus, with one of them being a little bit bigger to take Tyson, and that's the one that he names Rainbow. But see, the way they set up Rainbow, I thought it was actually kind of cool. When Rainbow came out of nowhere, I was like, it's Rainbow. I guess they're doing the thing that kind of upset me in the first one. But no, out came not 3, but 4. Well, I guess 4 total. So not 2, but 3, for a total of 4 hippocampi. They said, Ivan, we've heard your complaints for years. We got you good. We're not rewarding you with 3, but 4 freaking hippocampi. And I'm not sure why I am obsessed with these hippocampi, just hippocampi in general. I don't know why. I just am. We get freaking 4 of them. We get 4 of them. We get 4 of them. And I thought that was incredible. What a way to end this episode. They could do whatever the frick they want for the rest of this season, and I will be fine. But that is it. That is my breakdown for Season 2, Episode 6 of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this episode. Did it make you a little worried? Or did it not? Like I said, I am a little worried. It's mixed because this was really good. But there were just a few things that just made me a little concerned, so... Once again, let me know in the comments below. My sushi media links are in the description below, and I will see you next time. You've just been Montified.